Hey y'all, this is a video I've been meaning to make for a while, and I kind of been putting it off because I wanted it to be perfect, and I just realized I'm never going to be able to do it perfectly, and that it was more important to do it now and do it while it's on my mind. Something to address people's anxieties and nervousness right now. If you're watching this, I'm Lewis Weil, financial planner. I work with a lot of people who are self employed, a lot of people with families, and I've been getting a lot of, understandably, people with anxieties about the political situation. We're in March 2025, economics, just the state of the world and the state of life, and people coming with their justified anxieties. I want to be a little reassuring by applying some of my own perspective as I've thought about current conditions as a planner, as a person, as a dad, of just how I'm also absorbing and dealing with stuff right now. And there's I'm not trying to in this diminish anything that's happening with anyone in particular. I've personally been impacted by some of the aftermath and decisions that have been made the last couple months. Plenty of people I love, people I work with have been. So this isn't to say that there haven't been very real consequences for very real people that have impacted their lives. But I'm just coming to talk about in general and how to be reassuring for yourself and for your nervous system and you and your family right now. And, this is kind of perennial advice. I've actually been thinking, despite, whoever might be in the White House at any given time, these are kind of perennial feelings. So whether you're watching this now or 5 or 10 years from now, or somehow watching it in the past, this stuff stays true all the time. So the kind of immediate thing of like, I'm worried about right now, about conditions right now that I have lost. I might lose my job. Something will happen to those I care about. Well, the immediate response to that, this is what I do all day, is planning. We don't know the future. We don't know the immediate future. We don't know the long-term future. So, planning to be able to respond to circumstances. So rather than like, well, what happens if there's a recession? What happens if the stock market crashes? Well, plan for the long term. Having a good emergency fund is a big part of it. I always make sure that people I work with have very, very good emergency funds, like 3 to 6 months, if not more. It used to be really hard to convince people to have such good emergency funds, but ever since COVID lockdown, it is not as hard to convince people. So, big fan of having good emergency funds, and also like having plans. Like if you're worrying about your job, thinking about, well, what will I do if I lose my job, and not even waiting for that. Like if you're feeling like it's tenuous, maybe this is a time to start looking elsewhere and thinking about how can I take my skills and apply them somewhere else. And a lot of times I see people, like the impetus might have been they were afraid for their job, but then they end up changing careers, changing jobs, and end up making more money and being in a better position. So if you're in a place where you can be doing it, starting to think, what can I do to take care of me and myself and my family so that I can then take care of my larger community? Because, we can only influence the world and societal conditions so much, but, we can help our immediate family, we can help our parents, we can help our siblings, we can help those close of us in community. So what do you need to do to take care of yourself? And this is a big part of this, is I suggest this to most people, is like, get off the phone, get off social media, at least for a while, at least for a day or two, maybe a week, maybe a month. Like every fear, every anxiety in the world, now and for the last few years, people have just been dumping in there. You don't have to absorb everyone else's anxieties. And so it can be really helpful to step back, disable, maybe delete all social media, news, Reddit, and check in and see what's going on with you, what's going on in your surroundings. You know, if the internet is saying that the world's on fire, and sometimes it is in a very real way, not to say it's not, but step back from absorbing every anxiety in the world, every possibility, every fear, every scenario, and step back and see what's going on with yourself. And do this. I mean, I hope this doesn't sound patronizing, but it's so true and so important. Like, do some self-care. Like, if you're just a nervous knot, have you been sleeping? Have you been staying hydrated? Have you exercised? Like, a lot of times when someone comes to me and they're like, Lewis, I'm going to lose my job. The stock market's going to crash. What am I going to do? I say, you're going to log off of social media. You're going to get a good night's sleep. You're going to drink some water. You're going to have a good meal. And then we're going to see how you're feeling. And then we're going to make better decisions from there. So I can't change the larger world. I can't address every anxiety that people are dumping into their phones, but I can take care of myself, and so can you. So I really hope that doesn't sound like I'm minimizing larger things, but it's so true. Take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. And if you're up all night doom scrolling, you aren't in a position, like, your nervous system is literally not in a position to take care of yourself and be able to know what is real and respond to it accordingly in order to be able to plan. And that's what I've learned over the decade I've been a planner. Like, the reason we do it is we don't know the future. So we give ourselves options so that we can be in the best position when we arrive at an unknown future. And speaking of that, I share just, and hopefully in a reassuring way, I'm in my 40s now. It is an old young, a young old, being middle-aged, but I've seen the world change in a whiplash way multiple times over my lifetime. When I was born, Ronald Reagan was president. Like, if you're younger than me, that might as well be like George Washington was president. Ronald Reagan was president. I remember I didn't understand it, but I remember the Berlin Wall falling. Like, it was being a little baby sitting watching the tiny CRT with rabbit ears, and just how many times and how often the world has changed. And I bring this up because we have a human bias. It is a natural evolutionary bias to take the scenario that we are in right now and just extrapolate and just say, this is what it is, and it's going to continue in the future. And things got bad, and then they got more bad, and the economy got bad, and all these bad things happened, and that's just going to continue forever. That is a bias, and it is not true. Like, I don't know when it will stop being true, but things move so quickly. Things that seemed like the most important thing in the world, the most earth-shattering thing to ever happen, just becomes a footnote, a thing that happened in the past. Things are scary now, but again, not trying to diminish anything. I've been through scarier. As a person, as a planner, like, I was 19 when 9/11 happened. That was really, really scary. Nothing like that had happened in any of my lifetime to the people around me. People didn't know how to deal with it. Like, I've been through the the wars that followed after that. That was terrifying and had very real impacts on people. The scariest thing, I think, was COVID lockdown. COVID itself and the lockdown, because no one alive on the planet had been through something like that. That was scary. Like, because I was, at the time, just like from personal experience, like taking care of myself, my family, my company, my clients, and just like not having answers. But, we as a people got through that. Like, don't just be in the present and assume and extrapolate like I feel things are bad and I feel bad now, and that is just going to continue infinitely into the future. Things move so quickly. People in power change and come and go, and it will change. And take a step back. I like to say, like I was saying before, log off social media, make your world smaller. Like, all your anxieties are out there in the big world. Bring them in. Make your world as small as possible and see how that is. Like, focus on your dog, your cat, what you're cooking for dinner tonight. Me, it was easy to do that because we have a 1-year-old and she forces me to be very present and focusing on her. And that's actually been a really good exercise because there's just not space. I know what's going on in the world. I have access to all the same things that everyone else does, but it's just like, I ain't got time and energy for that. I got to focus on getting dinner made and getting diapers changed. Make your world smaller, see what your reality is, and then step back. Make your world really, really big. Like, I like walks in nature. I do some, I wouldn't call myself a birder, but I go out looking for birds. I guess that makes me a birder. Being out and seeing trees. There are trees in the park that I like to go to where I happen to know that they might be 5, 6, 7, 800 years old. There are trees that I walk under that are older than this country, and they have just been sitting there collecting water, getting rained on, getting bird poop, getting light every day for centuries. Things come and go. Just like putting you in perspective. Go out, look at the stars, look at the moon, look at how just big and vast and incredible the universe is, and put everything in perspective. I just find it to be a really good exercise. It doesn't change anything in the world. It doesn't say that bad things aren't happening, but it helps put in perspective that something that can feel so big can be so small. And also know it will pass. I try to avoid saying names, but if you're at all younger, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, they will all be old and dead and buried and a note in history. Like, I'm in my 40s. I'm planning for my next 30, 40, 50 years. By then, what was happening right now, it's just going to be one note in history. If you have kids, like, they're not even going to remember. That is going to be a distant history by now. History just keeps moving. So don't, all to say, like, be present in yourself and your body, but don't be so focused on being present that you feel like this is just how things are now. And that I'm going to feel this way forever. It's so important to realize that, we're just ants on a rock spinning in space. Like, that helps me feel better. Maybe that getting existential isn't for you, but somewhere in there is a crumb that can help you contextualize where you are and help you feel better about the fact that right now you're just going to try to take care of yourself so that you can take care of your family and your community. Like, donating to causes, helping people in a material way rather than just worrying about them. Which comes to, like, kind of the bigger question I get a lot of, like, well, the world's ending. Why should I even have a 401k? Well, I don't know that the world's ending. I get why people say that. I get where they're coming from. I get the feeling of where that's coming from. But that again is extrapolating that human bias of that things as they are just going to continue on forever until there's ecological collapse, global warming, and we're all just dead. I don't know what's going to happen. If we're in a Mad Max scenario, you're not going to be worried about your 401k. We've got other problems. That only works if you're familiar with Mad Max. That might have been a very 80s boy reference. But if we're in a desert planet fighting over scraps with the last zombies who survived, then yeah, you're not going to be so worried that your 401k didn't do great. But if the world doesn't end, just in case the world doesn't end, let's go ahead and plan a 401k and our kids' 529s, because you don't want to get to the future that you thought wasn't going to happen and then be like, oh dang, I forgot to save for my kid's college fund and now I have no retirement. The market goes up, the market goes down. I got people in my inbox being like, Meluz, what do I do? The market's going crazy. And honestly, I don't even look at it day to day because as investors, we have such long time horizons, like over the course of like decades, centuries of like putting money in and taking money out of the market. And I was like, I'm not even entirely sure what people are talking about. So I went and looked at it, and yeah, the market is down right now. If we go into a recession, it might get worse. But it's not permanent. It's just even what I was seeing was just like a little, like when you look at the long graph of financial history, you couldn't say right now was anything more than just like static. I don't know what's going to be in the future. Like if it goes down a lot more from here, maybe I'll have some egg on my face. But right now, I'm not seeing anything that looks more than like just static and corrections and changes in the market. And also, there's a long time ahead of us. There's going to be other we're not taking our money out right now, and even if we are, we're not taking it all out right now. You get into the market slowly, you get out of the market slowly. So I have not seen anything that would make me change whether I'm going to continue investing. In fact, some people would argue that stocks are on sale. I'm not crazy about that phrasing, but I understand where it's coming from. Like in the market's down, you're buying more shares with the same amount of money. People in taxable accounts, were able to do some tax loss harvesting, which only happens when the market goes down. But it's just a fact. Like sometimes the market goes up, sometimes the market goes down. That should not be a factor in your day. That there's nothing I'm seeing that says we need to change our long-term strategies. And that just comes back to that it's important to have long-term strategies. Like if you have scenarios that you're worrying about, what can you do to respond to them? I've had some like really serious ones of like, I'm worried about my immigration. Well, it's like, let's look at your documentation. Let's know who your immigration lawyer will be if you need one. If something does happen, what comes next? That's a big example. The more common one being just like, I might lose my job. Well, let's plan for what you do if you did lose your job and maybe even get ahead of it. But the point isn't like that. I'm not trying to say things aren't bad in certain ways. I'm not saying that I support decisions that are happening, but that can also be true of any time in my adult life. It's more just to remind ourselves of the importance of planning and the importance of self-care and checking in with ourselves and seeing what our reality is and how can we take care of it. If you are in a position where you want help, this is what I do all day. I help people figure this stuff out and how to respond to it. I'm happy to do that. LewisWeil.com, LewisWeil.com. But regardless, I encourage you to do some of the stuff I was saying. Take care of yourself. The other day, I was in a really bad mood. I was really mad. And then I just realized I was hungry. I went and ate a good meal. I thought about the thing that I was mad about. I took care of it. And I'm really glad I ate a meal before I went nuts, because I was mostly just hungry. Not that sounds so blasé, but it's so important to check in with our emotions and listen to them. And when we're constantly being barraged with every anxiety and every possible bad scenario imaginable, to stay in tune with ourselves. And that's the take home, is get in touch, stay in touch with yourself, and figure out what you need so that you can take care of yourself and those around you and those you love. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope this was helpful. It was such a ramble. I wrote a little bit out, but I don't write, scripts or anything. So it's definitely all over the place, but that's just how it goes. So hopefully there was a nugget somewhere in there. I hope you're well. Again, reach out if there's something I can do to help. And if not me, reach out to the people who love and want to help you. All right. Be well, y'all.